Hello and welcome back to my OOTP 20 series here with the Toronto Blue Jays. We are here in the offseason here in 2022. I touched a little bit on how our team did in the last episode, which was the wild card game against the Angels. Unfortunately, that did not end too well, but you can see our record at the end of the season was 90 and 72. We were second in the league in terms of runs scored, and also second in the league in terms of on-base plus slugging. And we were sixth in baseball in terms of runs allowed. You can see, though, our defensive stats were truly awful, and we weren't very good at stealing bases either. Month to month, really, it was just May that was kind of an outlier. I mean, in August we were 500, but nowhere close to May. And if we take a look at our Pythagorean record, we were a little bit unlucky. You can see we should have been about 93 and 69. And if we take a look at the standings one more time, that would have put us right next to the Orioles. So we really made a push for the division. Unfortunately, had to settle for the first wild card spot and ended up losing that game to the Angels, like I mentioned. Overall, with the postseason, you can see it was the Padres who ended up winning it all. So congrats to them, I guess. I did want to quickly go over one trade. You can see we got Casey Mize, and we ended up trading away Griffin Conine, who was someone who was actually quite good in my Kansas City Royals series last year. But right now, he doesn't really have a place on the team, and he'd just kind of be sitting in AAA. And it looks like on the Tigers, they need an outfield spot, so he'll probably be on the Major League team, which I figured would be worth it. And in return, like I said, we get Casey Mize, who is, certainly not what he was originally, I don't know about supposed to be. I mean, a lot of prospects don't pan out. But now he's kind of a bottom of the rotation guy, according to our scouting reports. But I feel like we kind of need a bottom of the rotation guy rather than, a fourth outfielder type. So I think that's kind of a decent trade maybe for both sides. But anyway, let's quickly take a look at some of the team stats. We touched on this a little bit in the wild card episode, but basically Sale had a little bit of a high ERA, but when you take a look at the strikeout to walk ratio, still really incredible. Unfortunately, he was horrific in the wild card game itself, which is a bummer because that's kind of two straight starts where he has not been great in crucial games. Luzardo, a very high ERA, still not striking out a ton of guys. He gave up a lot of home runs this year, so that's concerning. I mean, his ratings are still very good. If we take a look at the OSA ratings, they're not as high, but I mean, they're still a solid starter. So I really am hoping that this was kind of a dud year. You can see he gave up 40 home runs. I mean, that is incredible. I'm not sure if, in this league home runs are up or something, but that's a lot of home runs to give up. And he did lead the league in terms of giving up home runs. Alex Reyes, I'm not sure what to expect from him. He's only going to have one more year of team control after this anyway. But, in 19 starts last year, he gave us something. He struck out a ton of guys, definitely walked a lot of people, didn't give up any home runs, which is kind of interesting. So I'm certainly going to throw him out there and, just see what sticks. For right now, we've got Andrew Heaney in that fourth spot and Casey Mize rounding out the rotation. In the bullpen, Will Smith and Ryan Presley will be leaving, so we're going to have to figure out what to do with our bullpen. Otherwise, I think all the familiar names are coming back. We will have some new guys as well. Chris Clark, this is somebody who we drafted in the first draft. He was drafted in the 5th round as a starting pitcher. Looks like he's going to be more of a reliever unless that changeup can develop. And then Nate Pearson as well, kind of a similar to Alex Reyes guy where the control is not there, but very good stuff. And, he's someone who will trot out there out of the bullpen. If we take a look at our financial situation, you can see we only have $1.3 million for free agents, but that is misleading because if we take a look at our salary arbitration guys, you can see I'm not going to be signing a couple people. So Marco Gonzalez, he's somebody who we got in a trade at the trading deadline with the Mariners and pretty much immediately had surgery to remove bone chips in his elbow. You can see he pitched a third of an inning. What a joke. But I don't think he'll be coming back. He's asking for like $7 million, especially given our financial constraints. That is just not going to happen. Similar story with Yaziel Sierra. He's somebody who we picked off of waivers before, almost accidentally, basically. But anyway, he'd be asking for like $9.5 million. He's not a terrible reliever, but he's not going to be worth that much. Plus, he has a torn UCL, and you're not really sure how he's going to respond from that. Andrew Triggs would be pretty cheap, I think like $2 million, but at the age of 33, I can see his ratings declining, and did not have a great year this year, although he did have a nice strikeout to walk ratio. I think I'm going to let him go, honestly. I also thought about not bringing back Zimmerman, but he's only going to be paid $850,000, so I feel like it's worth bringing him back. Maybe he'll just be a pinch hitter. Maybe we'll end up releasing him, but it's such a low-risk amount of money, so I think we're going to bring him back at least for now. Yelich, which I kind of touched on as soon as we traded for him, is asking for an absolutely ridiculous extension. Even if it is kind of a more moderate asking price, I'm not sure we'll be able to afford it. I'm kind of guessing we're going to have 16 or 17 million to work with. When all is said and done, some other kind of notable guys I was thinking of, Kevin Smith or Cavan Biggio, these are two guys I could trade away. But, quite frankly, I'd rather have 4 infielders and pay Kevin Smith something like $6 million. I feel like he's going to be worth it. Somebody could get injured. We could always throw Kevin Smith at the designated hitter spot as well. Plus, I think Cavan Biggio can play the outfield a little bit. You can see right field there. Not sure if he's very good ratings-wise. Yeah, not very good range, although not very good range in the infield either. So we'll kind of just see how all that plays out. I also wanted to touch on basically our defense because I think at this point, being last in the American League in terms of zone rating is definitely a potential issue. Now, it didn't really stop us too much, but you can see that we were second in the league in offense, 6th in the league in runs given up. And I just think that should lead to better than a 90-72 record. And I think part of the reason it's not is just our horrible defense. And again, I'm not sure that there's much to do about it because, are we really going to get a different shortstop than Bo Bichette? But his zone rating is -20, which is very bad. I mean, our total zone rating was -45. So, that tells you a lot of it is Bo Bichette. But then again, even taking his defense into account, because I believe WAR does, he's a 5.7 WAR player. He's just amazing offensively, basically. I don't know. Something to think about at least. Oh, and then the other kind of elephant in the room. So I am actually going to be a GM and manager this year. It's something I've wanted to try out in OOTP. And now is kind of a good time because, Bob Melvin has retired. So I think it'll be interesting to kind of control the lineups and do the kind of platoon splits and make sure that people are playing where we want them to play. I think I'm at least going to try it out for a season, see how that works out, and then we can go from there. In terms of our owner goals, our owner is actually not very happy with us. Even though we had a good record, you can see that he is worried. He does have demanding patience. I think part of it, too, is we actually did not turn a profit this year, which is very bad. And I think part of that was the ticket prices. I'll have to pay a little bit more attention to that. You can see when I reduced the ticket prices, I think I had it at $25 a game. When I reduced it to 19, we saw a lot more attendance. So I think we're going to start at 22 and just kind of play it from there, but I'll be keeping kind of a better eye on that to make sure we do actually turn a profit. And if we do a quick prospect check, so I think Dylan Cruz is still kind of our big prospect here. Really good potential contact rating, decent speed and defense as well. Had some pretty good minor league numbers. Now he is only in rookie ball, but he'll be making his way up. Hopefully he keeps progressing. Gavin Dugas, another guy, looking pretty good. He's actually got some good infield range, which is always nice. At 22 years old, he'll probably be an A+ in AA ball this year. Definitely not a power guy, but pretty good at everything else. And Garrett Frechette, he's another guy that we drafted in the 10th round in the 2019 draft. He is coming along nicely, although the OSA ratings don't look very good. His minor league numbers have been actually pretty decent, so I'm kind of optimistic about what our head scout thinks. And then another guy who does look very good is Andy French. Both the OSA ratings and the head scout ratings really like him. Great bat, great speed, really good defense as well there in the outfield. So he is still only 19, but I do really like the looks of him. Obviously, though, a lot of these guys are very young. You'll notice, and I wanted to address this because we don't have really many pitching prospects because, quite frankly, I've been avoiding them in the draft. I don't see anyone who looks good. And someone pointed out that my head scout, here we go, Manuel Torres, he favors ability, which I guess has a particular effect on how he views high school pitchers. So high school pitchers might be a little bit underrated by Torres, again, just because he's really looking for that ability, which when you're talking about a high school pitcher, it's like you're really just projecting and kind of, looking at tools and hoping he pans out. So I'm going to keep that in mind for future drafts. And, even if the pitcher's ratings are a little bit lower than what we might hope for, that still might be something that I take a look at. And I should mention as well, although our owner is worried, we did get a 2-year extension, which is always nice. And last thing before I sim ahead, I promise, I did release Kai, and the reason is just that he has not been playing up to Major League standards. He's a first baseman. You really got to expect him to hit. and he has been below replacement level for really 2 straight seasons, and so I just figured it would be better to release him. Okay, so I've simmed ahead through the awards here so you can see the American League Most Valuable Player was Shohei Ohtani, followed by Jose Ramirez, who, gosh, has really just been hitting the ball. But yeah, Ohtani as a pitcher this year, really dominant again, and as a hitter, I mean, a 136 OPS plus, you cannot complain about that. I think the MVP makes a lot of sense. In the National League, though, it was Alex Verdugo. Interesting to see that he seems to have panned out for the Dodgers. And in the Cy Young race, again, it is Ohtani who is the Cy Young Award winner. And in the National League, Santiago Flores. So let's take a look at him. Wow, what a dominant season. You can see a very low BABIP, but really good strikeout to walk ratio. Really didn't give up any home runs either. Stamina might be a bit of a point of concern down the road, but yeah, that's a really good age 22 season, that's for sure. For Silver Sluggers, we got 3 of them this year. Guerrero Jr., Yu, and Bichette all come away with a Silver Slugger award. I still hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly, but Han-Sing Yu has just been unbelievable for us. I mean, the more I just think about it, like, I just did not expect for him to be an 8-win player. But anyway, we will see if he can keep that up. And then in terms of Gold Glove Award winners, we don't have any, so that's not surprising given our team defense this year. Okay, so we have simmed ahead to free agency. Let's see if there are any international free agents this year. Yeah, so I don't really see anyone who we would go after. Let's take a look at our team finances so you can see we'll have about $21 million to spend on free agents. If I were to identify some team needs, I would say could always use a starter, but we definitely need some bullpen arms. I would say at least a shutdown kind of guy. And in terms of our batting order, you know, some sort of like left fielder, first baseman, DH type, really a bat. And I say that even with our team defense being so low. It's just, I can play Guerrero at maybe first base, but we still need a DH spot right now that's being occupied by Zimmerman, who just really has not been up to the task. And in left field would be Lazaro. Now, Lazaro doesn't look too bad. I mean, his ratings look pretty good. OSA ratings are definitely lower. But, he was kind of average last season, so I'm not necessarily opposed to have him being our left fielder, but I'm certainly a little bit wary of it. So anyway, with that budget in mind, let's take a look at who's available, and you can see Yelich. Man, like before, I guess he was giving us a team discount because now he wants $55 million per year. If we do take a look at relievers, it is kind of Will Smith who is that premier reliever available. But again, he's asking for quite a bit of money. If I were to spend like $11 million on a reliever, it probably would be Edwin Diaz. He's looking for a 4-year deal. I'll keep an eye on him for sure. Starter-wise, there is somebody like Severino. Severino looks like his strikeout rate was a lot lower last year, so that's concerning. He's also a compensation free agent. I don't know, I kind of feel better just about who we've already got than who's on the market. This doesn't really seem like a strong kind of free agent class in terms of pitchers. And even in terms of the hitters, it's very top-heavy. There's Yelich, Betts, and Mazzara, but beyond that, I don't really see a whole lot. Yeah, I mean, I just think this is too much for Mazzara. I think I'm just going to kind of wait and see how these things develop. Maybe someone will have less of a demand, basically. Or who knows? I mean, maybe we can do a trade. Maybe there is a contract that we can pick up. Okay, so here's a quick trade I'm going to do with the Cubs. As you can see, we're going to be sending away Alex Reyes, who has shown signs of being quite interesting. I mean, certainly his strikeout rates are really been through the roof the last 2 years. But the walk rates are very high, and I'm just not really sure if he's going to be able to be a starter this season. I think the Cubs, who were quite awful last year, are kind of looking into the future, although he is going to be a free agent after this year, which is kind of why I'm okay with giving him away. We're also sending away a minor league first baseman, someone who our scout really doesn't like, but OSA ratings are a little bit higher, so maybe the Cubs see something in him. And then we would also be sending away a catching prospect, someone who I just don't think really has the offensive ratings to ever play in the major leagues. And in return, we would be getting Kyle Hendricks, and you can see the Cubs have given us some salary relief. Our salary would still drop by $3.2 million, but that gives us some financial flexibility still for this year. And we would only have Hendricks for 1 season, but you can see he's been very consistent for a long time with the Cubs. And even though the strikeout rates aren't very high, and they did dip a little bit last year, really his bread and butter is ground ball stuff. So he's an extreme, ground ball pitcher, very good control. And that might not play out too well with the infield that we have, but I still think it's going to be a step up over Reyes. And I think this is the deal that I'm happy to do, considering Reyes only has one more year of team control anyway. So you can see Hendricks will slot into that number 2 spot, and hopefully he does well for us this upcoming season. So with that said, I'm going to sim ahead a little bit, see how this free agency market develops, and we will go from there. Okay, so I've simmed ahead a little bit to the Rule 5 draft. As you can see, Christian Yelich ended up signing with the Brewers, no surprise there. And he'll be getting a really good amount of money. That's not something we were going to be able to pay. Instead, I have my eyes on, Edwin Diaz. And the reason is he's a no compensation free agent, so I really like that. It would be a 4-year deal worth $40 million. I think he's one of the really elite relievers out there. You can see he's been worth about 2 wins per season, which is really good for a reliever. And I think with good relievers, they can really turn close games and help you kind of achieve that Pythagorean record. And hopefully he signs with us. But anyway, we have reached the Rule 5 draft. So actually, I need to take a look and see if any of our players are eligible for the Rule 5 draft. Okay, so I think we've protected the guys who we want to protect. Let's go into the Rule 5 draft and see if there's anyone we want to grab. Yeah, I'm not really seeing anyone here. Maybe this Austin Rubik. He has really not been in very high-level minor league ball. Not great work ethic. You can see the walk numbers are quite high. I don't think this is going to be someone who I end up going with. Ratings are intriguing, though. Jake Dunham doesn't look terrible, but yeah, I don't think I'm going to grab anyone here. Okay, so on Christmas Day, we sign Edwin Diaz. So he will be our new maybe closer. I don't really want to put him as a closer. And actually, I forgot, I'm the manager of the team now, so I can make him whatever I want. So he will be our late inning guy, though, for sure. We still have about $9 million to work with. That could get us a guy like Severino, although, again, he's not really the same Severino according to those strikeout numbers. I'm ignoring Kimbrel because he has fallen off a cliff. Okay, I might end up looking around a little bit. Maybe we'll do another trade. Okay, so this took a little while, but I have figured out a trade with the Rangers. I think this makes a lot of sense for both sides. You can see the Rangers last year, not a great team. They're not really making a push for a playoff spot. So we're going to be getting Justin Turner from them, who is 38 years old, but he's still a very productive player. You can see last year, almost a 5-win player. But we would be taking some of the salary off the books here. We'd be getting, dropping about $9.5 million on Turner. So we would be giving up a couple of prospects. The first is Riley Adams. He's someone that, offensively maybe a little bit intriguing. I never really liked the catcher ability being under 50, so that's kind of why I'm keen on getting rid of him. But he could definitely end up being a backup catcher in the majors. Martinez is another guy we're going to be sending off. Our scout, not really a huge fan of his offensive profile, but certainly the defense is there. There's no question about that. And in very low-level minor leagues, he's shown flashes of being a good offensive player. But when he moved up to A-ball this year, it was definitely a step back. And we'd also be sending away Logan Warmoth. Now, this is someone who has intriguing ratings. He's been kind of sitting in our AAA team for a couple of years now. And again, we've got a lot of people up the middle. So I have made a last-minute change here. I'm actually going to be adding in Addison Barger rather than Warmoth, who I was just touching on before. Barger, I just feel like doesn't really have the bat to be a major leaguer, so I'm more comfortable kind of sending him over, even though he is younger and he's got some pretty stellar defensive ratings. But anyway, we definitely need a bat. I feel like Justin Turner is that bat, and let's see if they'll eat any more of his contract. They will. Yeah, so actually now we'll only be losing $7 million, so we'll still have $2.6 million to work with. We probably wouldn't spend that on anyone, but, it's more money on the draft and international free agents if we want it. And then, of course, if at the deadline we want to get someone like Yelich again, we have the financial freedom to maybe do that. So anyway, we're going to do this trade. Okay, so we have simmed ahead to January 24th. I have some bad news. Elvis Luciano, who I actually forgot to touch on in the beginning of the episode, has suffered a setback in his shoulder injury, which is really a disaster because this is a guy who's very young, really hoping that he could have a big impact on our rotation. And unfortunately, he will now be out for the entire season with that torn labrum. So, hopefully he can come back and be good, but this is not good for sure. Not only for this year, but you got to think down the road, this might really impact his ratings. Okay, so I've simmed ahead to the first day of spring training. First, let's check out the preseason predictions. So, as you can see, we're projected to be 87 and 75, which is good compared to the rest of the division, which seems to be kind of clumped together but a little bit weak. And if we look at the top hitters and pitchers this year, we've got Guerrero, Groshans, and Yu on the top hitters. Sale is also the number one top pitcher. Hendricks and Mize are also on there. That's interesting. You can see Mize is ERA is way higher than everyone else's. But anyway, if we take a look at our team, this is what I've got planned. So you can see our starting rotation here with Sale, Hendricks, Luzardo, Heaney, and Mize. Mize is going to be a follower, and on those days, Edwin Diaz is actually going to be the opener, and I've got Edwin Diaz as a stopper. Again, keep in mind I'm the manager, so I'm controlling all these lineups. And this is kind of how our bullpen is looking. I don't really know if we've got a great setup core. Justin Anderson has been good for a couple years in a row, so I really hope that he continues that trend. But otherwise, a lot of new names. Clark and Pearson. Foley is there as well. Adam Kloffenstein, he's been kind of a prospect for a long time. I believe that we drafted him. Well, maybe not. No, I think he was just in the Blue Jays system. And then if we take a look at our offense, this is going to be the batting order that I'm kind of going with here. You can see Guerrero at first base, and he'll be leading off. Bichette's going to move over to second because I'd like Groshans to play shortstop. He's just a little bit better defensively, and as I kind of mentioned, Bichette was so awful in terms of his zone rating last year. I want to kind of move him off that shortstop position, see if that improves things. Anyway, Justin Turner is going to be at third base. I'm going to have Cavan Biggio try out left field here in spring training. Hopefully he can develop that. Just because I'd like to fit his bat into the lineup and also get Kevin Smith's bat into the lineup because they've both been good. Of course, that's all subject to change. Also, Jake Mangum will be in the lineup to start the year. Obviously, kind of a lack of power there, but I'm hoping the defense and the speed and the on-base percentage really kind of adds up. So anyway, that's kind of the plan. So hopefully that all ends up working out. Thanks for watching this episode, and I'll see you guys at the first year player draft.